Hi. Okay, so how do people even start with these YouTube videos? Do I just wave or say, hey guys, welcome back? Even though this is literally my first ever YouTube video. I have no idea, but I do know this that if I had waited until I felt 100% ready or confident, I probably would have become an expert at waiting, and that literally felt like a much bigger risk than pressing record. So here I am, maybe slightly awkward, but in possession of far too many thoughts to have been kept inside. And guess what? I do have a habit of yapping. So I thought, why not? There's a method to this madness. And after years of listening to people, watching patterns, and collecting my own fair share of plot twists, I realized I have a lot that I want to say. And I'm sure there are people who would definitely want to hear this, not because I asked them to, but because it is something that they will resonate with. And the best time to start was probably, yesterday, but the second best time is apparently right now. Which actually brings me to a slightly concerning observation about our human mind, because that's what I professionally do for a living, correct? See, have you ever wondered and reflect on this? Does our mind have any concept of business hours? Because answer this, when does our mind actually clock out? When does it have off days? Because I don't think ever. It's always on. Even if you're minding your own business, it is still on in the background. Okay, now I want you to imagine this scenario. You wake up in the morning, you're minding your business, and say you're brushing your teeth, and suddenly your mind goes like, oh, hey, remember that weird, embarrassing thing you said back in the past? And you are like, wait, what? And suddenly, of course, you are still physically there, but mentally, you have taken a flight. You start wondering, oh my God, I should have said this, I should have said it in this way. And congratulations, now you're living in your mind instead of reality. I know it's funny, but so true. And look, I genuinely believe, all of us have these three group chats literally running all the time. See, one is the heart, which is very emotional. It falls in love with potential. It gets attached to uh, fictional characters. I know, right? It cries over adorable dog and cat videos. And then there's the mind, which makes spreadsheet for decisions that absolutely do not require spreadsheets for. It replays conversation and thoughts like it's editing a director's cut. And then there's the third chat, which is universally agreeable when I say this, okay? The worst case scenario. And we all know who's winning, right? So it's always online, always typing, never off, never invited. And somehow it has all the admin rights as well. And the funny and the strange part, nobody really teaches us what to do with any of this. By the way, hi, I am Niyati Khimani. I am a psychologist and a counselor, and despite popular belief, a fully functioning human being. And I have spent years sitting with people, okay? While they shared their stories, they thought they were too messy, it was too embarrassing, or too complicated to say out loud. And also, I have given them a space to just process the feelings that they had been suppressing it for ages. And look, here's what I've learned. Okay? People aren't necessarily bad at life, they are just exhausted from negotiating with their own minds. Also, whenever someone finds out I'm a psychologist, the same two questions arrive almost immediately, like clockwork. Are you analyzing me right now? And I am just like, I'm having imaginary conversation in my head. So guess what? I'm not even focusing on you. Then the second one is also amusing. And by the way, my personal favorite is, oh, so your life must be very sorted. And I just literally eye roll and I be like, absolutely. Guess what? The degree came with complimentary inner peace, emotional immunity, and unlimited patience. Sadly, mine has expired. See, the truth is, the matter of the fact is, okay, Humans are nuanced, okay? We all have layers and complexities. And just because you are aware about something, right? Like understanding emotions doesn't stop you from feeling them. We don't necessarily become immune to it. It just gives us sort of better words or better vocabulary when our emotions show up. And here's the fun part about the people around me, like my friends or even other people, like they always assume, and it's just but natural and subconscious, I'm sure. Like they assume that I'm the strong one, I'm the listener, I'm the emotional support human, and of course I can be all of that. But sometimes I would also love for someone to ask me that, hey, you've been carrying a lot, do you want to put the bags down for a minute? Do you want to feel lighter? Because guess what, you can exhale here. And see, here's the thing, underneath the job, the title, the qualifications, the experiences, even we are people, right? And I think we are human beings with complicated emotions. And I think that's true for all of us. See, most of us, we don't need saving, right? We just need somewhere safe enough to stop pretending. And that's when I started wondering, like, how did we learn so much and still know so little about ourselves? Isn't that fascinating? Let that sink in. See, we've learned algebra, photosynthesis, or probably how to draw like neat margins in the notebook. And then adulthood arrived, and it's like, congratulations, here's a nervous system, childhood conditioning, complicated relationships, and of course, taxes. Figure it out. And the most challenging part is nobody teaches us emotional literacy. Nobody says, see, here's what shame feels like. Here's why you keep people pleasing. Here's what your anxiety might actually be trying to protect you from. Here's how disappointment shows up in the body. Instead, the internet, right? It literally barges in every morning because we all love doom scrolling. The first thing in the morning, right? It barges like an over enthusiastic intern or a life coach for that matter, says wake up at 5, journal, touch grass, manifest, heal, optimize, become your highest self before lunch. And you are like, I was just fine few minutes ago and suddenly I need to fix my life. I am not okay. Right? And at this point, see, self-improvement literally sounds like a full-time internship. And no offense, okay? I'm not here to add more gyan. You all probably have enough of that and enough of tabs open. In fact, we are literally competing with notifications, with algorithms, and apparently the attention span of a goldfish. Yes, you heard me. But what I've noticed after years of sitting with people is much simpler. See, some of the loneliest people that I've met, they weren't alone. They had, sort of successful careers, loving families, wonderful friends, lives that looked perfect on paper. And yet, they'd quietly tell me that, you know what, I'm feeling this void, I'm still feeling empty. And that's when it actually hit me that, you can have 5-star relationships with the world and still have 1-star relationship with yourself. Yes, both those things can actually coexist. And maybe that's the real work. We don't need to become someone new, but we simply need to reconnect with the person we've always been living all along. Because somewhere in all the noise, we have lost our own voice. It's like, who are we at the core? Like that onion, we were peeling those layers. And guess what? This is a fact. Like, see, our inner world quietly shapes our outer world. And that's exactly why this space exists. The title, Dimaag drama. I know it's a fun and interesting title. But if you see, it's like every emotional plot twist somehow involves one of these 3 things. See, the heart wants one thing, the mind writes probably 17 alternate endings, and life says, here's unexpected twist, so more drama. So this is not just a channel about becoming perfect, okay? We're not even, nobody is perfect. We are all flawsome. Yes, having flaws but yet awesome. Yes, I just made that up. It is about a place to get curious, to literally laugh at ourselves, to untangle patterns, to talk about relationships, overthinking, confidence, boundaries, people pleasing, and all the wonderfully confusing parts of being human. And also a space where you can actually just slow down and strip off all the noise and just reconnect with the core. Look, my hope is simple that if you leave feeling little less alone, a little more understood, and a little bit more able to hear your own voice beneath the chaos, that's the reward. Because listen, I don't think we all have lost ourselves. I think we've just spent so long listening to everyone else that our own voice has become mute. And maybe together we can turn the volume up because we spend years collecting gold plated moments, right? Like applause, validation, productivity, achievements, while forgetting that the real goal is literally trusting ourselves, coming back to ourselves, and remembering who we are when life gets loud and chaotic and messy. So, welcome to Triple D. Bring your overthinking, your chaos, questions, your messiness. We will untangle it together. One thought, one feeling, one experience, one drama at a time. Welcome home. See you in the next one. Subscribe if it resonates. Bye.